Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham Dhammam Sangham Namasami. Yeah. Greetings, friends, and greetings to YouTube. This is another in a series of talks that I am planning to give on the first noble truth, the noble truth about dukkha. Today I shall be focusing on the idea of identity and how identity is dukkha. How this is something that should be fully explored, fully investigated, fully understood. I think the format for this group is to first begin with a period of sitting meditation. And so we can do that at the beginning. I welcome you to come to an upright and balanced meditation posture. Think of putting away all of the excitement and agitation of the day that just passed. Letting go of any stress or worry that we might have. Letting go of any planning or imagining that one might do about the future. And just make an initial resolution or a determination to stay in the present moment, to stay in the here and now, just during the space of this meditation. To make the mind so peaceful, so open, so contented that it is satisfied just to do the simple meditation procedure and to take an interest in what is arising in the body and mind. Being aware of the body and the posture of the body. Feeling the weight of the body pressing down on the cushion of the seat. Feeling the touch points where the hands are touching, where the legs of the feet are touching. Bringing the thought of kindness or harmlessness, whatever arises in this meditation. Let it be for my welfare, and for the welfare of any others who I encounter. Recollecting the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha as a kind of a refuge, a safe place, so that no matter what difficulty or frustration one may encounter in the world or with people, one can always come back to the Buddha, that enlightened person, fully human and fully awake, and to the Dhamma, the truth, and to the Sangha, the good friends who share this path. Aware of the morality or the ethical precepts that we've undertaken and made the commitment to. That's a kind of a purification that gives us a mind free from remorse and free from many kinds of trouble. With the idea that whatever happened in the past is forgiven, and renewing our determination, our dedication not to cause harm brings the mind to a peaceful place, to a place that's secluded from many troubles. Acknowledging the peaceful mind, and taking a few minutes being aware of the body, relaxing the body, letting go of anything that's tight, relaxing the face, dropping the shoulders, letting the belly be soft. Staying in full awareness of the body. And taking a couple of deep, long breaths to be aware of the sensation of breathing. Breathing in long. Breathing out long. Breathing in long. Breathing out long. And then just letting the breath rise and fall naturally. Directing awareness to the breath. Noticing each breath. Aware of where in the body the sensation of breath is clear. Could be at the belly or the chest or the throat or around the nose, inside the head. Wherever it's clear, let the awareness rest on that spot in the body. Just as the body is resting on the chair or the cushion, the mind or the awareness is resting on the breath. As the breath comes and goes, awareness is very still and stable, like a strong post on the beach at the edge of the ocean. The post is stable and not moving, and the waves and the tide come and go. So find that place of stability or stillness as the standpoint for watching the breath where it's clear. If the awareness goes away from the breath to something else, see it very clearly, what that's like. And then when you can, come back to the breath. Bringing up enough energy to stay with the object. Enough energy to come back again and again. Breathing in, aware of feeling. Breathing out, aware of feeling. Breathing in, gladdening the mind. Breathing out, gladdening the mind. Breathing in, calming the mind. Breathing out, calming the mind. Breathing, aware of the activities of the mind. Breathing, not holding on to it. Breathing, letting the activity of the mind calm down. Breathing in, aware of impermanence, and breathing and letting go. Dear friends, I said at the beginning that I would like to try to develop an aspect of the First Noble Truth, which is related to identity. This is something that I'm basing on the Chula Vedala Sutta. Chula Vedala Sutta is the shorter series of questions and answers, number 44 in the Middle Length Discourses. I'm not planning to give you a sutta talk this evening. I'm going to be giving a sutta talk on this sutta at 4 o'clock on this coming Saturday for the participants from the here at the Carolina Buddhist Vihar, where I'm staying in Greenville, South Carolina. And it's also going to be posted on the YouTube channel of my home temple, the Dhammadharini Bhikkhuni Sangha. But just for tonight, I wanted to bring out a few points that are developed in this sutta. The background story for this sutta is it's about Visakha, who's a layman, and the bhikkhuni Dhammadina. This is Dhammadina seated on the high seat She's a fully enlightened arahat, and her former husband, Visakha, is a non-returner. He had happened to and encounter the Buddha's teaching there in Rajagaha, and he heard a discourse of the Buddha and listened, paying very close attention to the sutta, and as a result of hearing that teaching, he successively obtained stream entry. He attained the state of the once returner and the state of the non-returner, and then he went home. And his wife Visakha noticed that he was very calm and happy, but he was sort of not affectionate in the same way anymore. And she wondered what was going on. And she said, no, darling, you've changed. I hope that I haven't done anything to offend you. And he said, oh, darling, and then he explained what happened to him. He offered to give her his house and all of his wealth because he wanted to pursue the life of meditation and practice. But Dhammadharini answered, who would want to swallow the spittle that you have thrown away? And then she asked permission to enter the order as a bhikkhuni. She did that. She went away to a monastery in the country and practiced until she obtained her full enlightenment. And then when she returned, her former husband came and asked this series of questions. The questions are given in a very concise and compressed type of way. He was testing her to find out whether it was true or not about her awakening. The first question he asked was about identity. Here, the word for identity is sakkaya. Sa is short for sat, which means existing, and kaya is referring to a body, but it's not a body in the sense of a material entity or in the sense of something that has a concise and pure identity, but it's rather in terms of a group, like a body of soldiers, or that you can have a compound group which is called a body. So this is an aggregate body, and she gives the answer in terms of the 5 aggregates affected by clinging: panchupadana kanda, material form, feeling, perception, volitions, and sense consciousness. That's the 5 is the pancha. They're called aggregates, they're called khandas, and they're called upadana because they are affected by clinging. Now, if you are a knowledgeable Buddhist, you might already have picked up the hint about where this teaching is going to be going, because in many places especially the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta and the Sutta on Turning the Wheel of Dhamma, and the greater Foundations of Mindfulness Sutta, and the Analysis of the Truths, the Satchavibhanga Sutta. In all of these places, when they explain dukkha as being birth, old age, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, not getting what you want, getting what you don't want, being separated from those who are dear, being forced into a connection to what is disliked. And then in that other teaching, he says, in brief, the Panchupadana Kanda Dukkha, these 5 aggregates are dukkha. So this is his summary of dukkha. And so in this case, the question is posed in terms of identity rather than in terms of dukkha. So how is it that these 5 things are contributing to creating this identity, this sense of self? So now this comes down to what is the meaning of this self, this atta, which is a dangerous delusion, something that definitely prevents awakening as long as we cling on to that view. So the sense of self, it's something that is independent, meaning it's not subject to the flow of causation. It's not just something that's continuously arising and ceasing based on causes and conditions, but instead something that has this continuous, timeless existence, this existence which is going through time, and which is, you could say, receiving the results of all of the other activities. And this identity is something that it's autonomous. So you have agency over your own self. We might think that that which I am is something that I control. Even I think in the political debates, there's a question about whether a citizen has the right to be in control of their own body. Do they have, so the government is not supposed to seize your body and throw the body in jail without a just cause, because you have that right to control your body. That the government is not supposed to be able to tell you what medicine to take or what procedures to do on your own body. You have the control over that. But of course, that sense of control is a kind of a delusion. And when we think about what's called mind and body in the Western sense, it's like even if you acknowledge that you don't really control the body, because the body gets old and sick, and the body is not able to do all the things that you want it to do. Sometimes the body is too tired, doesn't have enough energy or enough strength to do the things that you would like to do. So in that way, the body is sort of like doing its own thing. Um, and yet, you may think that um, there's something that with the consciousness or the some aspect of something mental, which is yourself, so that then the mind is inside the body, like a jewel box with a jewel inside the jewel box. And so that you might think that even though the body is imperfect and falling apart and changing, that inside the body there's a self, which is this pure and perfect thing like a diamond sitting inside of the jewel box. Everything that we experience, we think that all of our experiences, all the aspects of the mental side of our life is dependent on having a living physical body. You could say different aspects of it. So the material form is like where I am, so I am in the body. With respect to feelings, those pleasant or neutral feeling tone, it could be like, how am I feeling? With respect to perception, it's like, what am I perceiving? So there's a subject and an object, a perceiver and a perceived. So those, whatever those entities are, that have come in the range of the mind or the senses, and somehow or other we put it together with some knowledge or some concepts or some past experience, and we recognize things according to the characteristics that are most important and significant to us, that we perceive them in a way like how they are relevant to us. So I might not have a full understanding of the chemistry of food, or how food comes to be, or how the body metabolizes the food. But I could recognize this is food, and it's something that's here for my nutrition. So this perception is always happening in relationship to one's own self. And then the what's called sankhara, which is often translated as formations. In this context, it's most especially the volitional formations. So it's like, why am I acting? What is my intention there? And then the vijnana, that's just the last one. This is the sense consciousness in terms of the faculty to receive the inputs through the 5 physical senses, and to be able to cognize and experience that input that's coming in through the senses, or in the case of the mind consciousness, being able to assemble different aspects from any of the 5 physical senses and put them together in a way that's meaningful. So a particular object might have a certain kind of a appearance. make a certain sound, have a certain smell, have a certain taste, and all of those things all together are creating the perception of what that object is, or that the mind consciousness can contribute to purely mental experiences. So that's a little bit. So there's a lot that could be investigated. For a long time, I found it very meaningful to look at emotional reactions in terms of the five khandhas, meaning that when there was some kind of a emotional state arising, they say that emotions are especially prominent in terms of feeling and volitions, but actually perception and sense consciousness and the body are all engaged when there's an emotional excitement or an emotional arousal happening. There's some changes happening in the body. Something has been triggered that's caused some perception, and the perception is creating a certain dynamic synergy that is escalating the arousal of feelings, and it's all building up towards having a ability to do what we need to do to support our own life. That's really what feelings are, what emotions are for. It's kind of a complex. But then, in this case, in this analysis, it's more. This is more the standard or traditional way of looking at it, is in terms of, like, who am I? This question, who am I? And the suggestion is to avoid the trap or the mistake of thinking of the self as being some pure and permanent thing like the diamond inside the jewel box, which is being carried along. But instead see it as being an appearance resulting from the compound interaction of those other five factors. And then in the next subsequent questions, it goes through exactly the formula that we're all familiar with about dukkha and the Four Noble Truths. So the origin of identity is the craving, which brings around the renewal of being, accompanied by delight and lust, delighting in various states of existence, the craving for pleasure, the craving for being, the craving for non-being, and then what is the cessation of identity? It's the remainderless fading away and ceasing of that very same craving. It's giving it up, relinquishing, letting it go, becoming independent of that very same craving. So this is very interesting in a way, because identity is kind of like it seems like a sort of like an intellectual thing, or something kind of like conceptual, and it has a way, at least this is to my mind, of feeling a bit static, like a definition in a dictionary or a chapter in an encyclopedia sitting on a bookshelf. It's just there, and it's got that kind of a static, unchanging quality to it, something that's sort of like frozen. But in another way of looking at it, if you think of like existence, at the beginning, this identity, the Sat Kaya, the group of existence. The other Pali vocabulary word for existing is called Bhuta, which is like becoming. And that is definitely could remind a person of the constant flow of samsaric existence, that beings are arising, ceasing, and being reborn again, that our state of existence is continuously being created and arising and coming to be. So in that case, it does have that sense of the flow of conditions. And in that way, we can see how the craving is feeding, putting the energy into this constant motion of this flow of arising and cessation of existence, like the life process. When we try to grasp onto a school of fish, or grasp onto a moving cloud, or grasp onto a flowing river, and try to pin it down, get it into our collection, put it into our dictionary, put it up on the bookshelf. In that kind of a way, we're trying to do something which is very impossible, isn't it? And then the way to the cessation of identity is just the Eightfold Noble Path, right? So the Buddha is telling us that this problem, like identity, is something that's kind of like conceptual, but it's not going to be answered by thinking about it and conceiving and conceptualizing and coming up with ideas. So ideas are, in philosophy, is never going to be the way to solve this conundrum. The way to solve it is going to be through practice, which then is creating the conditions whereby it's possible for the insight to come along that breaks the delusion about the self. This particular sutta moves along to clinging, and it the clinging is called upadana. The etymology of that word, dana, is giving. When you give a meal to the monastics, or if you give something to charity, that's called dana. Then adana is taking. And then upadana is taking unto oneself. So this is the process where something that this craving that was more of a dynamic process is trying to become, definitely trying to become an identity. And you can see, I hope, that it's dukkha because it's impossible. So the relationship between that clinging and those 5 aggregates is that the 5 aggregates are the objects of clinging. So you wouldn't just have clinging as some kind of an abstract thing that's existing all by itself. I'm just taking onto myself. I have to take something onto myself and identify with it. And so I take this body, this feelings, these perceptions, these intentions, these volitions, and these consciousness onto myself. Uh, and this is keeping us on the round of samsara, right? And then the next question that comes along, and now all of this has been talking about Sakkaya, our identity, and now he asks about Sakkaya Ditthi, which is the identity view. So the Sakkaya Ditthi is the first of the 3 fetters, which you will be destroyed when one obtains stream entry. For those who are beginners in the Dhamma or who are not yet enlightened, it would be a really worthy focus for practice to try to understand what this Sakkaya Ditthi is and how it works, with the thought that when you, if you investigate and really examine it, look at it from many directions, eventually it can lose its power over you, and one can become free. So regarding the body, the feeling, the volitional formations, the perceptions, the volitional formations, or the sense consciousness, with regard to each one of them, one might have the wrong view that this aggregate is myself. So I am my feelings, I am my aspirations, I am my consciousness, something like that. Or else the view that the self is the owner of the aggregates, or else that that aggregate is part of the self, or that the self is within the aggregate. If a person says about any of these aggregates, this is mine, that will be due to craving. If they say, this I am, that's supposed to be due to conceit. If you say, this is myself, it's due to a view. And it's a very good phrase. This is not me, not mine, not myself. Not me, not mine, not myself. Even when you have something that you definitely may feel, experience, or emotionally feel, or experience as being me, mine, myself. Like if you say, if you fall in love and get married, and you say your spouse, this is my spouse. Or if you have a child, this is my child. Or if you have a parent, These are my parents. That's very, very deep. But even when we are not able to let go of that sense of attachment to various kinds of things in life, and not only loved ones, it could be like if a person is striving with ambition to do good things in the world and to have like accomplishments in their vocation or in terms of the causes of the things that they believe in, and then they will be organized around their project, right? And so there are some, they need some, or they may seem to feel like they naturally need to have some kind of attachment to that project or to their aspirations in order to get the job done. But one can, this leads to, this is one of the greatest and most direct ways to work with dukkha or suffering when it arises. If you just say, whenever I feel the pain of dukkha, then just at that moment, I can inquire, what am I clinging to? Is there something here that I've identified with? Is there something here that I'm greedy about? This is mine. And then having seen that, even if you don't yet know how to let it go, if you can just acknowledge, it's painful to be clinging to this thing. And then even if you don't yet exactly know how to let it go, if you just use that phrase to sort of remind yourself, to sort of like it's like a conditioning the mind. It says, not me, not mine, not myself. Or saying some phrase like, it's not personal. This is a very, very good, effective way to condition the mind to gradually be able to approach that level where it's possible to fully let go. Another section of this sutta speaks about a state of meditation, which is this is like advanced meditation. It's called a cessation of perception and feeling. And as a type of meditation, this will be like what they call the ninth jhana. In the Visuddhimagga, it's all laid out that one can develop, purify your morality, become secluded from unwholesome states of mind, enter and dwell in the first jhana, and then successfully in the four jhanas, and then successfully in the four immaterial attainments, and then upon emerging from each one of those meditation practices to recognize that no matter how wonderful that meditation was, no matter how peaceful it was, that it still has the quality of being conditioned and impermanent, and therefore it's not something that should be clung to. And then with that, you let go of clinging to those meditation states. And then finally coming to this state where perception and feeling cease. So we said before that perception and feeling are two of the khandhas, which when we are clinging to them, That's part of this concise definition of what dukkha is. And so then, even if a person is not doing the kind of practice or doesn't have the circumstance to develop this kind of deep meditation, nevertheless, they can be oriented with whatever level of meditation you're able to have. Upon emerging from your meditation to examine with insight whether that meditation is the unconditioned, that would be nibbana, or whether it's conditioned. In other words, you had to do factors, you had to do practices, you had to follow meditation procedure, you had to arrive at your meditation place, you had to set aside the constant activity of the mind in your ordinary state of mind into withdrawing to that seclusion. So these are some of the conditions which are supporting the arising of meditation. So upon emerging from meditation, acknowledge that. Acknowledge that the meditation itself is impermanent. The meditation itself has, because it's impermanent, it has the quality of dukkha, and there's no use clinging to it. Later on, when you become a fully enlightened arhat, it will depend on what type of contemplation you've been doing all your life that determines how your nibbana is going to appear to you. This is what's stated in the commentary in the Patisambhidamagga. If your strongest power, faith, and energy naturally take the anicca characteristic as the main focus, then when you wake up, would you be able to contemplate the signless quality? Because what's impermanent doesn't have any fixed mark, a fixed permanent mark. It's signless. So you'll experience your awakening in terms of signlessness. If you have a strong ability and concentration to take up dukkha as the focus of your contemplation, then you may have nibbana presenting to you as being desireless. If it's dukkha, you don't want it. If you have the kind of a power of wisdom, and anatta, the contemplation of anatta or non-self, is a very natural practice, your strongest practice that you develop throughout your life. Then when you become fully awakened, when you become enlightened, when you enter nibbana, then it's said that emptiness, empty being empty of self, what is that nibbana is empty of self. So that will be like the first quality of nibbana that you may notice. This is commentarial, so you don't have to take it that seriously, but the reason I'm emphasizing this now is that even it's not just that we find that we investigate dukkha in the context of ordinary life with all of the unskillful things that could happen in ordinary life, but also we got to investigate dukkha within or higher meditation. I'm going to come now back to take a few minutes and look at questions. Can I share some reflection on how the self-identity relates to the drive to protect security of ourselves, security of the things we need for survival? Yes, right, of course. So we want life. We want more life. We want to live a little bit longer. Even if I had a terminal disease and I only had 3 weeks to live, the medical people would be trying to do some weird medical procedure on me so that I could live 3 months instead of 3 weeks. And people who have that drive, it comes from evolution. So we want to continue our existence, and we want to be not just at a minimum bare survival, but a little bit above that, like with a little bit of a safety, like kind of a cushion. And if creatures did not have the desire to continue their existence, then they would not avoid dangers, and they would, through a natural selection, they would become extinct and not be existing in that way. So that's and then so the self-identity. If I'm selfish, I'm always looking at what's good for me, right? And if I need something, if I'm selfish and not very wise, I may just like to take what I think I need. I wouldn't think of saying, I'm hungry, so let me give the food to you. Because I know that, giving food to you is not going to resolve my hunger. But there is a kind of a way that a person who is considered selfless in terms of being like generous and outward thinking, compassionate, empathetic, and that does have an awareness to help and support the people around them. Indirectly, that altruism does contribute to one's welfare, and may make it more easy to later on be able to let go of the delusion about the self. So to avoid getting on doing our duties, doing our work, without getting caught up in unskillful self-identity, I recommend generosity, observing morality precepts, using that mantra, not me, not mine, not myself, and just reflecting the things that we're keeping, that that they will change and disappear, and just preparing our mind in that way. So a neutral feeling, the pleasant feeling is, what's comfortable or what's good for me. The painful feeling is not comfortable and hurts me. So when something is not good for me and not hurting me, the tendency is that that neutral feeling, we don't notice it. This is sort of like the economy of the brain. We don't have enough brain power to be fully aware of everything all the time, unless we're really good at practicing. And so things that are strongly positive or strongly negative take a disproportionate amount of our attention. But if we give an equal amount of awareness to each moment that goes by, we'll see that many, many, many of the moments are actually in that neutral realm. The danger in the neutral realm is ignorance, because we didn't notice it. We were like oblivious to the neutral feelings. But then if we are mindful and fully aware with neutral feelings, that can be very supportive to developing the power of equanimity, which is a psychological, spiritual power that enables us to be stable no matter what's going on. The healthy sense of self, yes, there is a healthy sense of self. The conventional self so I think I'm going to pause now, because we come to the 9 o'clock hour. I didn't get to develop the special aspect of Vedana as being like the rocket fuel to accelerate dukkha, because of how those feelings have got that quality of being so changeable and so unstable. You really can't rely on feelings. But if you want to know more, you may come to my Sutta study class, or we may have a chance to maybe just focus on Vedana. Next week will be the last of this brief series of talks focusing on dukkha. And so why don't I give that promise that next week we can give a special discussion about Vedana and how to become really skillful in being present, fully awake, and compassionate towards all kinds of Vedana that come along, without making it the basis for perpetuating being trapped in unskillful, unwholesome suffering states. So that's enough for now. We can say Namo Tassa. Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for your patient listening and for your practice.